After years of working with older adults, there is one pattern that continues to appear again and again, and it often goes unnoticed until it begins to affect daily life in a very real way. Most people assume that weakness, stiffness, and instability begin during movement. They think something changes while they are walking, climbing stairs, or trying to stay active. But what I have seen repeatedly tells a very different story. The shift often begins before the first step is even taken. It starts in those quiet moments after waking up, when the body is still lying in bed, preparing to transition into movement. Many people believe they are doing the right thing by stretching in the morning, and stretching does have its place. It helps improve flexibility and can reduce the feeling of tightness. But there is something important that stretching alone does not do. It does not activate the muscles. Activation is what prepares your body to actually move safely. It switches your muscles on, engages your nervous system, and prepares your joints to handle weight and motion. Without that activation, your body begins the day in a partially inactive state. The muscles that are supposed to stabilize you are not fully engaged. The joints are not fully supported, and the signals between your brain and your body are slower than they should be. This is where instability begins, not as a dramatic event, but as a subtle change. A slight hesitation when standing, a feeling that your legs are not fully ready, or a moment of imbalance that disappears quickly but leaves you wondering what just happened. Over time, these small moments add up. They change how you move, how confident you feel, and how your body responds to everyday activities. And the most important part is this. This is not something you have to accept. It is something you can improve by changing how you prepare your body in the first few minutes of your day. To understand why this matters so much, you need to look at what actually happens inside your body during the night and in the first moments after waking. When you are lying still for several hours, your circulation naturally slows, your joints remain in one position for a long time, and the communication between your brain and your muscles becomes less active. This is completely normal, but it creates a situation where your body is not fully ready for sudden movement. When you wake up and immediately sit or stand, you are asking your system to switch from rest to activity almost instantly. For a younger body, this transition is fast and efficient, but as the years pass, that transition becomes slower. The muscles that support your hips, knees, and core take longer to engage. The nervous system takes longer to send signals, and your balance system is not fully prepared in those first few seconds. This is why many people experience that brief moment of instability when they stand up. It is not random. It is the result of a system that is not yet fully activated. What makes this more important is that most people never address it directly. They move through it, ignore it, and continue their day. But over time, this pattern reinforces itself. The body becomes used to operating without proper activation, and that increases the likelihood of stiffness, imbalance, and reduced confidence in movement. The solution is not to avoid movement. It is to prepare for it in a way that aligns with how your body now functions. The first movement in this sequence is often overlooked because it appears too simple to make a difference, but it plays a critical role in preparing your body for movement. This movement focuses on your ankles and lower legs, which are essential for both circulation and balance. During the night, when your body is lying still, blood tends to settle in the lower part of your legs. This is part of the reason why many people feel stiffness or heaviness in their legs when they first wake up. The muscles that normally help move blood back toward your heart are not active during sleep, so they need to be re-engaged. Gentle ankle movements help stimulate this process. When you move your ankles slowly and with control, you activate the muscles in your calves, which act like a natural pump for your circulation. This helps your body redistribute blood more effectively before you even sit up. At the same time, these movements begin to wake up the smaller stabilizing muscles around your ankles. These muscles are responsible for helping you maintain balance when you stand, and they are often the first to weaken if they are not used regularly. By activating them early, you give your body a more stable foundation for movement. This is not about speed or intensity. It is about controlled, intentional movement that prepares your system step by step. The next movement builds directly on what you have already activated. And this is where many people begin to notice a real difference in how their body feels, not just in the morning, but throughout the entire day. This step focuses on restoring smooth, controlled movement in your knees, which are one of the most heavily used joints in your body. Every time you stand, walk, sit down, or climb stairs, your knees are involved. And yet, they are often one of the first areas where people begin to feel stiffness, discomfort, or hesitation, especially in the morning. What most people don't realize is that this stiffness is not simply a result of age. It is often the result of inactivity during the night combined with a lack of preparation before movement. When your knees remain still for several hours, the fluid inside the joint, which acts as both a lubricant and a shock absorber, becomes less evenly distributed. This is why your first movements of the day can feel tight or slightly uncomfortable. Now here's where this becomes important. If you immediately stand and begin walking without restoring that movement first, you are placing stress on a joint that is not fully prepared to handle it. Over time, this can contribute to discomfort and reduced confidence in movement. By gently sliding your heel toward your body and then extending it back out, you guide your knee through its natural range of motion in a controlled and supported way. This helps redistribute the fluid inside the joint, reduces stiffness, and prepares your knee to support your weight safely. The key here is not to rush. Slow, deliberate movement allows the muscles around the knee to engage properly and ensures that the joint is moving in alignment. When this becomes part of your daily routine, you begin to notice something subtle but important. Your first steps feel smoother. Your knees feel more stable, and the hesitation that many people experience in the morning begins to fade. The next movement builds directly on what you have already activated, and this is where many people begin to notice a real difference in how their body feels, not just in the morning, but throughout the entire day. This step focuses on restoring smooth, controlled movement in your knees, which are one of the most heavily used joints in your body. Every time you stand, walk, sit down, or climb stairs, your knees are involved. And yet, they are often one of the first areas where people begin to feel stiffness, discomfort, or hesitation, especially in the morning. What most people don't realize is that this stiffness is not simply a result of age. It is often the result of inactivity during the night combined with a lack of preparation before movement. When your knees remain still for several hours, the fluid inside the joint, which acts as both a lubricant and a shock absorber, becomes less evenly distributed. This is why your first movements of the day can feel tight or slightly uncomfortable. Now here's where this becomes important. If you immediately stand and begin walking without restoring that movement first, you are placing stress on a joint that is not fully prepared to handle it. Over time, this can contribute to discomfort and reduced confidence in movement. By gently sliding your heel toward your body and then extending it back out, you guide your knee through its natural range of motion in a controlled and supported way. This helps redistribute the fluid inside the joint, reduces stiffness, and prepares your knee to support your weight safely. The key here is not to rush. Slow, deliberate movement allows the muscles around the knee to engage properly and ensures that the joint is moving in alignment. When this becomes part of your daily routine, you begin to notice something subtle but important. Your first steps feel smoother. Your knees feel more stable, and the hesitation that many people experience in the morning begins to fade. Now we move into one of the most important areas for maintaining independence as you age, and this is where the routine begins to have a direct impact on how you function throughout the entire day. This step focuses on the muscles at the front of your thighs, often referred to as the quadriceps. These muscles are responsible for some of the most essential movements in daily life. Every time you stand up from a chair, lower yourself down, climb stairs, or even stabilize your body while walking, your quadriceps are doing the work. What many people don't realize is that these muscles tend to weaken gradually over time if they are not actively engaged. And the problem is not just loss of strength, it is loss of control. When these muscles are not properly activated, your ability to manage movement becomes less precise. This is why some people begin to feel unsure when sitting down or notice that going downstairs feels more difficult than it used to. Now, here is where this becomes especially important in the morning. After several hours of inactivity, these muscles are not fully engaged. If you stand up without activating them first, your body is forced to rely on a weaker and less coordinated response. Over time, this pattern can reduce confidence and increase the risk of instability. By performing a controlled leg raise while lying down, you activate these muscles in a safe and supported way. The key is to keep the movement slow and intentional, focusing on engaging the muscle rather than simply lifting the leg. When done correctly, you should feel a steady engagement through the front of your thigh. This prepares your body to handle weight more effectively when you stand. Over time, this simple movement helps restore strength and control, making everyday actions feel more stable and predictable. And that sense of control is what allows you to maintain independence with confidence. The final movement in this sequence brings everything together, and it targets one of the most important but often overlooked systems in the body. This is the group of muscles along the back of your body, particularly the glutes, which play a critical role in posture, balance, and overall stability. When these muscles are not active, your body naturally shifts forward, your posture changes, your center of gravity moves, and your balance becomes less stable. Over time, this can lead to a pattern where movement feels more effortful and less controlled. What makes this especially important is that these muscles tend to become less active with prolonged sitting, which is common for many people as they get older. When muscles are not used regularly, the connection between the brain and the muscle becomes weaker. This is why some people feel that certain movements are harder to control, even if they still have the strength to perform them. The purpose of this movement is to re-establish that connection. By lifting your hips in a controlled way, you activate multiple muscle groups at once, creating a strong and stable foundation for movement. The key here is to focus on engaging the muscles before you lift. This ensures that the correct muscles are doing the work, rather than relying on compensations from other areas. When done consistently, this movement helps improve posture, balance, and coordination. It also supports a more natural alignment of the body, which reduces strain on the joints and improves overall comfort. Over time, this leads to a noticeable difference in how you move, not just in the morning, but throughout the entire day. When you look at these movements as a complete sequence rather than individual exercises, something important becomes clear. Each step is preparing your body in a specific way, building on what came before it. You begin by activating circulation in your lower legs, then restore movement in your knees, engage your hips and core, strengthen your legs, and finally activate the muscles that support your entire posture. This progression is what makes the routine effective. It is not random. It follows the natural way your body needs to transition from rest to movement. When you skip this preparation and move directly into standing, you are asking your body to handle all of these adjustments at once. That is when instability occurs. But when you move through this sequence, even at a slow and relaxed pace, you give your system the time it needs to adjust step by step. The result is a smoother, more controlled transition into movement. Many people notice that they feel more stable when they stand, more confident when they walk, and less stiff throughout the day. And what makes this especially valuable is that it does not require significant effort. It simply requires consistency. The body responds very well to small, repeated actions, especially when those actions are aligned with how it naturally functions. Another important point to understand is that these changes do not happen instantly, but they also do not take as long as most people expect. When you begin to prepare your body in this way each morning, the effects start to build over time. Within a few days, you may notice that your movements feel slightly smoother. Within a couple of weeks, you may begin to feel more confident when standing and walking. And over a longer period, these small improvements can add up to something much more significant. More stability, better coordination, and a greater sense of control over your movements. What is important is not perfection, but consistency. Even if you start with just a few repetitions of each movement, you are already creating a positive change. The body adapts quickly when it receives the right signals, and these movements provide exactly that. They tell your body that it needs to prepare for movement, that it needs to engage, and that it needs to support itself properly. Over time, this becomes your new baseline. Instead of starting the day feeling stiff or unstable, you begin to feel prepared and in control. And that shift, even though it seems small, can have a meaningful impact on your overall quality of life. The most important thing to take away from all of this is that your body is not working against you. It is simply asking for a different approach than it did years ago. The changes you are experiencing are not a sign that something is wrong. They are a sign that your system now requires a more thoughtful transition from rest to movement. When you begin to understand this, everything changes. Instead of rushing into your day, you begin it with intention. You give your body the time it needs to activate, to prepare, and to function properly. And that changes how you feel, not just in the morning, but throughout the entire day. You move with more confidence, you feel more stable, and you reduce the likelihood of those small moments of instability that can lead to bigger problems over time. The difference is not in doing more. It is in doing things in a way that your body can actually use. And once you make that shift, it becomes something you do naturally, without thinking. A simple routine that supports your strength, your balance, and your independence every single day.